Welcome to Please Me, the award-winning bilingual podcast bringing you bold conversations and big clit energy. Sí, Please Me se puede ver con subtítulos en español. I'm Eve, your host, on a journey from trauma to sexual liberation. Join me and my guests as we dive into conversations around orgasm equality, self-love, body positivity, and essential sexual education. Let's reclaim pleasure and close the orgasm gap, one empowering conversation at a time. If you missed last week's powerful two-part series, it's worth going back to catch up. I sat down with experts Sean and Amanda to unpack the power and control wheel, a tool that reveals how abusers use tactics like emotional abuse, isolation, and coercion to dominate and control their partners. These subtle but damaging behaviors are often overlooked or misunderstood, but they're critical to recognize. If you're passionate about trauma awareness, relationship education, or survivor empowerment, this conversation is a must listen. Start with part 1 to hear it all. I'm beyond thrilled and deeply honored to be nominated for 2 ASN awards. The categories are Best Educator and Best Educator Website, so be sure to check out my website for all my powerful educational resources and sex toy store. You can vote daily, so check the show notes to cast your vote and help me bring these wins home. I'm truly grateful. Thank you so much for your continued support. Did you know that podcasts rely on listener support to keep bringing you the content you love? For the best way to support the show, join me on Patreon for ad-free listening, early releases, bonus episodes, and exclusive content. Please Me is for mature audiences. Sit back, relax, and surrender to the pleasure of Please Me.
If we bottle that up, we are blocked in so many ways, and we are controlled, and authority comes from outside of us, and like all these things because we bottled that energy up. But when it's free and it's actually not unconscious, like just going and causing damage everywhere, but it's actually conscious freedom, it becomes the most powerful, most effective energy that we can access within our physical body.
ASN Lifestyle Magazine is your go-to source for sex-positive, sophisticated content covering everything from the swinger lifestyle and adult entertainment to intimacy, wellness, and more. You can read every digital issue for free, and subscribers get access to exclusive content. See the show notes for the link to subscribe and check out their Instagram. I'm excited to share that I now have a monthly column in ASN called Big Clit Energy, a Please Me series. Don't miss it and subscribe today.
What if an appliance emergency didn't have to be? If your appliances suddenly decided they were done, don't stress. Best Buy has you covered with a wide variety of major appliances from trusted brands, in stock and available now. So you don't have to worry about laundry piling up, refilling the fridge, or that big dinner party you're hosting. Because Best Buy has the knowledge and expertise to get you the right appliance for your home. Learn more at bestbuy.com. Best Buy. Imagine that.
Enter the world of sports the way you want with EA Sports College Football 26. Whether you rise through the ranks as a coach or chase greatness from high school recruit to Heisman, build your legacy and wear your colors with pride. Buy College Football 26 now at go.ea.com/MVP-bundle and bring glory home today. EA Sports College Football 26 is rated E for everyone. Includes in-game purchases, including random items.
The #1 selling product of its kind with over 20 years of research and innovation. Botox Cosmetic, onabotulinum toxin A, is a prescription medicine used to temporarily make moderate to severe frown lines, crow's feet, and forehead lines look better in adults.
Effects of Botox Cosmetic may spread hours to weeks after injection, causing serious symptoms. Alert your doctor right away as difficulty swallowing, speaking, breathing, eye problems, or muscle weakness may be a sign of a life-threatening condition. Patients with these conditions before injection are at highest risk. Don't receive Botox Cosmetic if you have a skin infection. Side effects may include allergic reactions, injection site pain, headache, eyebrow and eyelid drooping, and eyelid swelling. Allergic reactions can include rash, welts, asthma symptoms, and dizziness. Tell your doctor about medical history, muscle or nerve conditions including ALS or Lou Gehrig's disease, myasthenia gravis, or Lambert-Eaton syndrome, and medications, including botulinum toxins, as these may increase the risk of serious side effects. For full safety information, visit BotoxCosmetic.com or call 877-351-0300.
See for yourself at BotoxCosmetic.com.
Hi, welcome to IKEA.
This is my college campus.
Correct, but I see you're on IKEA.com ordering some college items.
My daughter's room is pretty bare. We need a lamp, some comfy pillows, her favorite stuffy.
Dad!
With pickup options, we've got what you need to conveniently order IKEA. Literally anywhere.
Sweet. More time for gaming.
And studying. Wait, where are you going now?
Have to show the ultimate Frisbee team how easy it is to order from IKEA. Get IKEA whenever, wherever, however you want. Choose from thousands of pickup locations, affordable delivery options, and more.
¿Hablas español?
Sprichst du Deutsch?
Kann du Norsk?
If you used Babbel, you would. Babbel's conversation-based techniques teaches you useful words and phrases to get you speaking quickly about the things you actually talk about in the real world, with lessons handcrafted by over 200 language experts and voiced by real native speakers. Babbel is like having a private tutor in your pocket. Start speaking with Babbel today. Get up to 55% off your Babbel subscription right now at babbel.com/Spotify. Spelled BABBEL.com/Spotify. Rules and restrictions may apply.
Hello and welcome to Please Me, the podcast that aims to destigmatize conversations about sex and sexual health by turning the sheets into our classroom. Today, I'm so excited to welcome Britton and Carolee Beckham to the show. They are a very interesting couple. They are married, and they have consciously recreated their union after being raised Mormon and leaving the church. They had to dismantle their beliefs about shame, their roles as husband and wife, and start from ground zero with their relationship, which I find fascinating. They have a podcast called The Magical Story of Us, and their story is informed by infidelity initially. And unfortunately, that was the beginning, but it was not the end. And they used that to build a relationship from ground zero to really learn more about each other. And I highly recommend that you go listen to their podcast, The Magical Story of Us, to learn their entire story, because we could just talk about that today, but I really want to get into more of the nitty gritty of what they're doing now. And so go back and listen to their story there if you are interested in learning more about their backstory, which is incredible. But I want to just start with the conversation about the infidelity, since it was such a big part of how your relationships transcended and became this like beautiful, magical story. So can you just start with how that came to be and how you moved on from that?
Yeah, so it started early in the relationship, became a little bit of a pattern during some of the biggest times of disconnection sexually in our relationship, which unfortunately was during pregnancies. And so that pattern eventually culminated in sexual infidelity in 2017 after being married for about 8 years. And from there, we began a healing process through the church, which was like a year long. Ultimately, that led us to the realization that the church had no idea how to handle this type of thing, especially for women that were receiving it. And so it was just a massive like debacle from the religious side. And so after like about a year after that healing process with the church, and us becoming more and more disinterested in the church over time, over that next year, we like had our first psilocybin journey together. I was recommended the book, How to Change Your Mind by Michael Pollan. And I read it, and then I was really interested in doing a ceremony, like a very intentional mushroom journey. I asked Carolee if she'd read it, and she was interested and said, hey, why don't we just do one together as a couple, our first one? And because we actually have always loved just doing things together. That's just part of our, even during the hardest parts of our marriage, we're always like, I just want to spend time with you without the kids. And so anyway, we did it together. And the very next day we ended up at church due to a commitment with grandma. And that was when we realized that was not going to be the place for us. So that was a really awesome way to jump out. So that next day after our mushroom journey, we left the church and never looked back.
It's interesting that you started with plant medicine, right? A way to get deeper into your emotions, into your healing. And I recently just did an ayahuasca journey, which I'm going to be talking about on another show. But yes, it can be such an incredible healing tool. And I love this. That was the sort of what led you to understanding that the church was not a place for your healing, even though you gave it a shot. You gave it a year or a year and a half of really trying to find your way through your belief system, right? But then the belief systems let you down. And really, I feel like it let Carolee down more, right? Because yes, there was a system in place to help guide you through healing, but really left Carolee out entirely. And unfortunately, in the patriarchal world that we live, and of course, Mormonism being a patriarchal religion, the women's considerations, emotions, healing are less considered. And do you want to just speak on that a little bit, Carolee?
Yeah, just also to add a little bit more context, right? This was the culture that we were raised in. This was like deep programming from the moment I was born. Went to church every single Sunday. I did seminary, which is scripture study, every single day in high school as part of my own spiritual education. Both Britton and I served missions for the church, which we dedicated. It was 18 months for me, 2 years for him of our life, where we were in complete service, teaching the gospel. Like, we really knew our scriptures. We knew the doctrine. We really practiced it. We were married in the main temple in Salt Lake City. And our oldest, who is almost 14, was also, when he started his schooling, was attending a very religious, private, highly academic elementary school. And so it wasn't just like something like, oh, we go to church every now and then. It was entirely the culture of our life. And in that culture, there's a lot of things that your life is planned out for you, but everybody else is doing it. And there's measures of success, right? Like when your kids turn a certain age, they get baptized, and you all go through this motion. And so that was where we were coming from. And we were really deeply programmed to think that this was the space of true happiness. And so I had been very good. I always had a little bit of a rebellious streak in me, but also I was very good at following the rules. I was very good at doing things the right way. And when push came to shove and Britton was unfaithful, it caused a lot of dissonance in me. I was like, where did I go wrong? I've been doing everything right. I got married to a returned missionary. We married in the temple. I'm going to church every Sunday. I'm serving as a wife. I became a mother. I'm giving my all to all of this. And so I had this sort of big breaking moment of, wait a minute, there's something that's wrong here. So when we went the pathway of healing with the church, I also was very hopeful. I was like, oh, now we're going to take these steps. We're going to confess before this board of 12 men, and they're going to give us what we need to do to make it right. And we're going to do it. We're going to do it, and it's going to be better. And the experience of doing it didn't make things better. It actually further traumatized me. And at that point, I had done enough healing in therapy and in trauma-informed yoga containers that kind of held me at the same time simultaneously, that I could identify the trauma as it was happening. And that really showed me that, cognitive dissonance when you're leading a high demand religion really can mess with your mind, because everything I was told was wrong and bad were things that were actually bringing me peace. And everything that I was told would save me was further traumatizing me. So there was this whole flip side. And yeah, there really wasn't any holding for the feminine. We had this meeting with 12 men. They told Britton what he had to do or what he couldn't do, what he wasn't allowed to do for an entire year. There was not a single woman in that space to hold space for me. And I felt alone, and I had so much shame, and I was so scared. And so then when I did turn to the male leaders that did know, that were part of that room, like in the middle of that year space, and I was shamed for asking for help, it just further showed me that it's not really actually about healing. It's about control, checking the boxes, and keeping you in the system. And at that point, I just didn't really want to be part of that system anymore, because the effects of the trauma in my life really took away my actual happiness. It wasn't the space of happiness like I had been told it would be.
Absolutely. And coming from that space of purity culture, right, where you are expected to be a virgin when you get married and are shamed for having even sexual thoughts, right? And so you feel like you are doing something bad if you're having any kind of sexual ideas even, or even having fantasies or desires, voicing those desires and fantasies. That was something way beyond something that you would even be considered okay. And so how did you break out of the programming that held you, and really you had to relearn from ground up? You had to throw all of that shame, all of that guilt, all of that programming out the window to really start from ground zero and build your relationship from scratch.
Yeah, you're right. Absolutely. There's so many layers to it. And when we left the church, essentially what I said to God was my version of God at the time. I was just like, there's things that I hold and cherish deep about this religion, upbringing, about certain spiritual aspects and the experiences I've had as a Mormon, but I'm willing to put that all on the table if I can just learn something new. Show me a different way. And so it was like a really spiritual move. It wasn't just, oh, I'm done with the church and I'm angry and blah. It was like, okay, if I'm leaving the church, I'm looking for something even deeper, because that's really what my soul was seeking. And for her, the same. Like, we both wanted depth, and she could never connect with the masculine God that well. When we started on the healing path, it wasn't just about healing the infidelity. It wasn't just about trying to get our relationship. It was like, all of a sudden, let's just fucking heal everything we can. And so it included leaving my career of 22 years as a software engineering field, right? Like, I started out as a self-taught web developer, and then I moved into a back-end software engineer, and then became a manager, and then architecting and designing software and all of that stuff. So it was like a lot of stuff that I gave up there, and we gave up layers and layers of conditioning. And it just started with questioning things. But the church's process gave us that realization, because it was so horrible and failed so badly, that we began to question deeper. And eventually, this was a slow walkout, but after the infidelity, 12 months of essentially, it was just a disciplinary council. That's all it was. How do we discipline you and make you feel bad for what you've done so that you'll change?
Shame on top of the shame,
yeah.
right?
It wasn't even really about healing. They had no concepts about emotional trauma, PTSD, what she was going through. They didn't understand. When I tried to talk to leaders in the church, for example, about my temptation, this and that, they're like, you're just not spiritual enough. You're not reading your scriptures enough. You're not praying enough. It's like, that's how you draw on your energy to suppress the sexual energy that's trying to rise. So there was so much confusion in all of it. So eventually, when we did the mushrooms, it was just like, we're out of here. Doesn't even make sense anymore. Yeah, it was an easy move after that.
And I'm glad that you said the word desire, right? And touched on the feminine pulse of that desire that's inherent in all of this too, because one of the things that I identified in this time frame was that I couldn't access my desire, not even really for him, because there was so much shame and there was so much purity culture. And also I had experienced sexual trauma as a child that hadn't actually been healed and hadn't been like held and integrated in a really healthy way. It was more of just brushed under the rug. Let's pretend it didn't happen. In how it was handled in the Mormon culture, there's so much shame around sexuality, so that if there is sexual trauma, it's even more shameful. In fact, one of my aunts ended up passing away from ovarian cancer, and we all knew it was the shame. It was the shame of the sexual trauma that her children all experienced that ultimately took her life. It was so prevalent, right? And here I was, unable to access my actual authentic desire. And the infidelity was a catalyst that helped show us, hey, here's a big spotlight on one of the hugest problems in your relationship. But really, when you shine the light even deeper, all of a sudden you're seeing, wait a minute, I believe that I'm not enough. I don't know how to access my desire. I struggle, like I'm a good wife and I'm a good mother, but I don't actually know how to be a lover. I was a virgin when I got married. I had never safely known how to explore and tap into my innate desire. What are my turn-ons? What do I want? If I were to initiate, what that look like? None of that was something that I had any experience in. And so the infidelity just shined a big spotlight on a problem that that was so much deeper, that was generational. And as I sat with this one word desire, I realized, oh, I never saw my mother model desire. I never saw my grandmother's model desire. I never saw women. And then I could feel this like thread, this generational thread saying, oh, it's because we were told some point in our past that desire was wrong and that we weren't allowed to have it. So like I even dove into that belief and I was like, hey, generational trauma. Hey, ancestors, are you ready to have your desire liberated? Because I'm going to allow myself to see where the blocks are so that I can open it for myself.
I love that you bring that up. And I was just about to ask you about your experience, because I love that you guys didn't turn away from spirituality entirely. You had a very strong foundation in believing in a higher power, whatever you call that, right? And that didn't go away when you left the church. You still wanted to build on your spiritual practice, but in a way that made more sense to you as a couple. And I love, Carolee, that you say in your podcast that you couldn't connect with the male God. And hey, I'm sure that 100% of women feel the same way. And when I talk about God, I don't say God, I say goddess, because if God is created in our image, then God is a goddess to me because I'm a woman, right? And that led you on a path through learning about the cycles of womanhood. And that's so connected to the moon and the moon cycles. And so you've created like all of these rituals around moon work that I want to get into, but just talk a little bit about how that shift in looking at God as a feminine being and really exploring that has helped you to get to the place where you are able to unlock your desires and really tap into your divine feminine.
Yeah, I love this question because we were in this place where we deeply needed to deconstruct all of the truths that we had been given. Yeah. And when I sat with that, there were a couple different books right after we had that mushroom journey that helped us just walk out of the church and never walk back. But I had this kind of awareness come to me that was like, oh, I'm still listening to everything spiritual from the context of the masculine voice and the masculine experience of God. And in a patriarchal religion like Mormonism, which has very hierarchical structure of there's apostles, there's a prophet, there's church leaders, there's the priesthood. It's all men, like men are the leaderships. And it's even in some of the meetings that they have twice a year, it was very rare for most of my childhood. Women never even prayed in those meetings. It was always like the men praying, the men speaking. Out of 20 speakers, 2 would be a woman. And so that there was this, I just didn't have the feminine represented. And then even in Mormonism, when it comes to the mother goddess, or they say a lot, instead of God, he's Heavenly Father. So then it's like Heavenly Mother. Mormonism has these roots about polygamy and this idea that polygamy is an eternal concept, that it exists in heaven. And so really, it wasn't just necessarily a Heavenly Mother. It was possibly Heavenly Mothers. And then she's so special, or they're all so special, God doesn't really want to talk about him, about her, this mother figure. And so I decided all that was bullshit and started down a very specific path of calling in very aligned literature written by the feminine that spoke to spirituality. And that really helped me, especially when I landed with books about Mary Magdalene, given my strong foundation in Jesus, in the Christian faith, being able to now see that there was a woman with Jesus that was his divine partner and understand her role from the space of her divinity, instead of this idea that she was this whore that had 7 demons cast out of her, right? Like she's painted by the patriarchy to just not be as empowering and equal to Jesus as she actually is. And so that journey really started to liberate me and have me seek out my own connection to the divine. And the minute I opened up that channel, that desire, all of a sudden, like I started to have so many insights, inspirations, connection to spirit, connection to my ancestors. Like my whole life, I had been told about spiritual gifts, but hadn't really accessed them. And it wasn't until I said, okay, I'm opening to this possibility that all of a sudden, all of these things that I had been told were possible started to actually be practical, like the reality of my life. And it is this deep feminine pulse, this story of our womb and of the earth and of the goddess and of that divinity through the feminine that really has brought both of us to healing. Britton realized he was very much in this strong masculine world that didn't have the integration of the feminine, and his healing also came through my dive into the feminine. We've been on this journey together. If I dove into the feminine, he was diving into the feminine with me. And so it liberated me, but it also liberated him. And now we're in this place where we have a really balanced relationship with both the divine masculine and the divine feminine.
I love this story. I think it's so important for couples to really get to, because yes, we do live in a patriarchal society, right? And all of the shame and all of what comes with that really can inhibit us in so many ways. And in so many ways, sexually can inhibit us as well, right? Because of all of the shame around sexuality. And really, sex is how we all got here. This is how we create life. And you mentioned Mary Magdalene, and unfortunately, history has suppressed the divine feminine. But I really do feel like we are at a time where all of that information is like bubbling up. And so I appreciate that you found it, and that Britton was also interested in learning and integrating that information to make your union better. And I think that is just such a beautiful part of your story. And you also talk about moon phases. And there was a book that you specifically read that informed you on like the phases of the moon and how to use that to heal or whatever. I'll have you speak on that, because I feel like you're the experts in this. And this is something that I'm really interested in. How do you use the moon cycles to help you heal or help you in your sex magic or in your desires?
Yeah, that's a really good question. The way we stumbled into moon work felt a little bit like just happenstance. So we weren't aware that there was this super magical way of having the cosmos hold us in aligning to our highest timeline. But that's what we understand now. And so that's how we explain this whole process. But essentially, yeah, I mentioned I was given a book. It was a book about bathing with the moon. This was given to me at a time where I was still very significant in the PTSD trauma of the betrayals and what that was doing on my nervous system, in my somatic body. I was triggered every day, like even if things weren't happening. Like life was challenging while also parenting and really trying to do the work. And so this book showed me, not even from the standpoint of healing, it just was more playful. Here is a moon phase. Here is the season: spring, summer, fall, winter, full, new, waxing, waning. And here are some things that you can do in alignment with the full moon in summer. Or
what was the name of that book? Just to put it.
It is called Moon. I think I have
just
it right
called
here.
Moon Bath, right?
I have it around. It's just Moon Bath.
Moon Bath. Okay, very good.
And then Bath ritual. Yeah, I looked at this book and I realized I really loved taking baths, and I loved having candles and having a glass of wine and some really yummy chocolate and some really beautiful music. And I bought myself a little cauldron, and I got little charcoal discs, and I would put little sacred smoke and incense. And then the book had tea blends. Here, make this infusion of herbs, and you actually add the tea to your bath water. So then I started, and because I was now buying botanicals to make my tea blend, all of a sudden I needed jars, cute little jars to put my herbs in. And I overnight had an apothecary. It felt very witchy, and I was like, this is so fun. But really, that was my first introduction, my first intuitive movement into ritual. because what I was really doing was having a ritual bath. It was self-care. Some of the practices with the different moon phases would talk about the seasonal energy. And in this moon phase, we're activating our inner fire because it's the summer full moon. And we're going to do this warmed oil self-massage and then get in the bath with these particular botanicals. And so it was very playful. It was very fun. I did this for about a year and just added more and more jars every single month as I was doing the new bath and getting the new botanicals for that next bath. And it got to this point where Britton realized, he was like, it looks like you're having a lot of fun with these baths. Can I join you?
Should I tell the story of why that happened?
Oh, go ahead. Yeah, sure.
So Carolee was doing this, and I was glad that she was doing self-care. I don't remember how long into this series of moon baths,
Yeah.
she sends me this picture on my phone.
Because you were gone with a friend that night.
I
You were
was
hanging
gone,
out.
yeah.
Guys' night.
Yeah, exactly. So I get this picture, and it's a beautiful picture of her with the full moon just rising above the mountains in the background, and she's masturbating to it. And I was like, oh, this is cool. I think I need to get involved.
Suddenly you
that was like,
have a bath too every season.
yeah, I'm like,
right?
can I get in on this action? Yeah, actually, it just showed me that this was like something obviously super meaningful, and the witchiness of it, the fact that she was connecting to the cosmos in a very intimate way, was a huge turn on for me, and also like intriguing. It was intriguing, and it was a turn on. So I'm like, I need to get more into this. So that was when we joined forces, and I began to follow her through these. And yeah, it's just been a tradition for so many years now.
So then after about a year of just doing this just for fun, all of a sudden I started to get wind of astrologers. And on social media, on Instagram, even today, we have a new moon in the sign of Cancer. Astrologically speaking, I won't get into all of the aspects, but this is probably the most beautiful, powerful new moon of the entire year. So how lovely that I know that this will come out later, right? People won't be listening to this in alignment with today's new moon, but we're in it. And this is so beautiful to be together with the beautiful aspects of this moon. But I began to read what other astrologers were saying about the aspects of each of these moon phases, and was blown away, honestly, that what they were saying perfectly described in so many ways what was really alive for me personally, individually, on my own healing. I was so private about my pain and about my story. I had still so much inherent shame. I couldn't really own my truth. Even my own parents, my family, like people did not know that we were going through what we were going through. We really kept it quiet and internal. And so to have an astrologer that I didn't know perfectly put into words the shadows that I was navigating through to become the best version of myself, I realized, I think that there's something called the cosmic clock. Like we're all actually a part of it. And if we sync to the energies, it's not so much the chaos anymore of it's all happening to us. When we sync and we use our consciousness to say, this is what's transpiring in the cosmos, and this is how it's illuminating my shadow, my life, the good things and the hard things. Now I get to be a creator, and the stars literally shine down upon my life and support me. And so we began to integrate the playful nature of just bathing with the moon with the deeper inner work of realizing there was a lot more to it. And ultimately, all of that, like, literally catapulted us into a new timeline, to a place where it took commitment, it took experience, it took like literally leaving our house, selling everything and moving to Bali, and then continuing on this epic, almost 2-year long world schooling, soul level pilgrimage to really begin to root in and integrate some of these lessons that we were learning about ourselves. But ultimately, the whole time, we were still aware of the moon, understanding her cycles, understanding what the cosmos were illuminating, and consciously doing the work with that sort of textbook.
So it's also an amplifier, right? So you're working with the cosmos, and it's already doing what it's doing for you, for me, for her. But when you attune yourself to the energy of the clock, then you become, not only are you able to see what's coming up by forecasting where the moon's going to be in relation to your natal chart, right, when you were born. But you can then you can anticipate what you're going to be dealing with, and everything makes sense in your life. You're like, oh, that I get why I'm dealing with this particular relationship issue, or why my business is whatever, or highlighting some of the blessings as well, some of the great positive aspects that we get. So all of that happens because we can see the clock turning in our own life. And this is why it's become such a powerful thing for us, is because we just kept doing it, and like it helped us to fast track our healing and get the most cosmic support we could.
Yes. And you mentioned that you went on an almost 2-year journey around the world, working on your connection, your relationship, and all of the things, right, that you did. And there were many different things. And again, I reference you back to their podcast because it breaks it down more in detail. But I want to talk about specifically the ISTA work that you did, which is where you connected and re-educated yourself and your sexuality. Can we just dive into that a little bit? Because then I want to talk about the ritual shadow work that you've developed from all of the information that you've gathered and the healing that you've done. So let's first talk about ISTA and how that experience was for you.
This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. Between two-factor authentication, strong passwords, and a VPN, you try to be in control of how your info is protected. But many other places also have it, and they might not be as careful. That's why LifeLock monitors hundreds of millions of data points a second for threats. If your identity is stolen, they'll fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit LifeLock.com/podcast for 40% off. Terms apply.
This podcast is brought to you by Carvana. Got a car to sell but no time to waste? Hop on to Carvana.com to get a real offer for your car in seconds. All you have to do is enter your license plate, answer a few quick questions, and if you accept the offer, Carvana will pay you as soon as you hand the keys over. They even offer same-day pickup in many cities. Save your time, score some cash, and sell your car the convenient way to Carvana. Pickup times vary. Fees may apply.
Shopping is hard.
I can never find anything in my size.
I don't even know my size.
I buy my clothes the same place I buy my groceries.
There's a better way. Make it easy with Stitch Fix. Just share your size, style, budget, and done. Your personal stylist sends pieces picked just for you.
That was easy.
Stitch Fix. Online personal styling for everyone. Free shipping and returns. No subscription required. Get started today at StitchFix.com.
Choice Hotels get you more for your money so you can maximize any road trip. And as your vacation maximizationer, I'm going to make sure you hear the maximum sizzle of Comfort Inn's free hot breakfast. Let's get real close. Maximum apple. Now that's fresh crispimization. Maximum waffle. Hear that crunch. And that's maximum coffee. Oh yeah, that's the pour I'm talking about. Breakfast maximized before hitting the road. Check into more. Book direct at choicehotels.com.
Hey guys, have you heard of Goldbelly? It's this amazing site where they ship the most iconic, famous foods from restaurants across the country. Anywhere, nationwide. I've never found a more perfect gift than food. Goldbelly ships Chicago deep dish pizza, New York bagels, Maine lobster rolls, and even Ina Garden's famous cakes. So, if you're looking for a gift for the food lover in your life, head to goldbelly.com and get 20% off your first order with promo code GIFT. That's goldbelly.com, promo code GIFT.
So ISTA was a call-in. Like in 2022, we had done about just over 2 years of working directly in our healing and healing childhood stuff, healing the things, and family relationships. And then part of it was infidelity, etc. But we also knew, like at the beginning of 2020, early on, that we needed some sort of sexual re-education. What happened in early part of 2022 was I had this download of, after leaving my career, I'm like, we need to just go all in on life. We need to have the full fuck yes energy of life. And there was a couple of books that really helped me with formulating that philosophy and like integrating it. And so when I approached Carolee and I'm like, let's just stop. I just left. I'm trying to hoard my money and protect it because I don't know how long what's going to happen in my life. Like I left my career. I have no idea why. Spirit was just telling me to do it. And I also resonated with that. So I was like, fine, I'll leave it behind. But it was really hard. And I was also depressed and like also questioning if I had done the right thing by doing that and quote unquote jeopardizing my family and stability and all that stuff. And when I had that idea to go all in on life and to live the full fuck yes, that's when the energy of all of that depression and stuff just vaporized. And it was like, yes, this is what you need to do. So we wrote down like several things that we wanted to do that year. We're like, we're going all in on life. This is what we want to do. One of them was a sexual re-education, like retreat of some kind. And then she later ran into an old friend, like a month or two later, ran into an old friend who had gone to ISTA several times and done it. And so we were able to get in touch with this program. We're like, okay, that's the one. Obviously, it came into our field. So we just followed the breadcrumbs and ended up going out in June of 22 to Denver, the mountains south of Denver, and having this beautiful week-long experience of just confronting all of the sexual energy. It was intense, but it was so good. And it was, they call it SSSEX. So it's spiritual, sexual, shamanic experience. And it spells sex.
Yes.
Hot. But what was so beautiful about it is it helped us find our no, it helped us find our yes, it helped us to get clear about having conversations as we wanted to explore. A lot of the people there were just single people, like we're married. There was, I think in our group, was there even another married couple? I know there was a couple that there wasn't.
There was an individual that he was married,
a
but
couple
his
of people that were
partner
married with
wasn't
partners.
there.
Yeah. So ISTA was that. Without getting too much into, it's a mystery school, so there's some really beautiful things that I don't want to like share just because that would take away from the powerful impact of it. But it gave us everything that we needed to confront the demons of lacking desire, of how would we approach this as a couple that wanted to have more socially sexual experiences as part of our experience as a couple, and not just like within our own relationship, but like outside of it. And it just gave us the framework. So ISTA, I have a lot of gratitude for it because ISTA totally upgraded our vibration. And I would call one of the key things here is like sexual liberation. So as we went through ISTA, I felt for me, like getting into overcoming all the guilt and stuff about sex and in the past and all my infidelity and all that, I was able to, during the process of the 2 years before, is to like really get to a point where I was like, I'm done being guilty about any of that and feeling any negativity. But what ISTA did was it unlocked all of the ability for me to like fully tap into my energy and not shame it whatsoever. And by the time we got back from that, it felt like a sexual liberation. And that's what I just want to say to you and your audience. I actually just mentioned this in our last podcast, you probably remember, but I'm like, you cannot be free until your sex is totally liberated, because it is the life force energy, right? If we bottle that up, we are blocked in so many ways and we are controlled, and authority comes from outside of us and like all these things because we bottled that energy up. But when it's free and it's actually not unconscious, like just going and causing damage everywhere, but it's actually conscious freedom, it becomes the most powerful, most effective energy that we can access within our physical body, I would say. So it is a beautiful thing. And it was so powerful for us that after we landed and got back from that week-long thing, which felt like a month, we decided to sell everything and travel.
I love that you mentioned sexual liberation, and I talk a lot about it on the show, and getting on the path to sexual liberation, because it really is like a journey, right? It's not just like one experience, but it's one experience leads to another, which I feel like in your story, that was the case. And I want to mention too here that honesty in your relationship, I think, has been so key to bringing you to the next step, because you guys were really brutally honest with one another in a lot of different ways. And I like to talk about radical honesty and how that can really help a couple to grow, and really just, even if you're not a couple, help a person to grow by being radically honest about your feelings, your everything, right? And there was a point in time in your story where you guys both realized that you weren't really all in, and you were very honest with that and saying to each other, I never really felt like I truly fell in love with you. And what would that look like? And going back and trying to rewrite that was, I think, a beautiful thing, because when you are indoctrinated into a marriage in a way, how can you really truly feel like you're the magical falling in love experience that a lot of people describe? And what really is that, right? And so I love that you guys were so radically honest with one another so that you could go to these places where you are really building and growing and deepening your relationship. And that's where we'll hit pause for now. This first part of my eye-opening conversation with Carolee and Britton ends here. We'll pick back up this Friday in part 2 as we continue exploring their journey through sexuality, spiritual awakening, and the power of reclaiming the divine feminine. Just 2 days away, don't miss it. For ad-free listening, exclusive bonus episodes, Weeb's library of archived webinars, and early access to new releases of Please Me, become a monthly supporter on Patreon. Simply open the Patreon app on your phone, search for Please Me, and subscribe today for premium content and more. Cheers to finding your